The Death Star's super laser carved through the void with emerald fire, obliterating Alderaan in a flash of impossible violence. But the weapon's discharge did more than murder a world. It punched through a convergence point in hyperspace, a fracture in reality itself that had existed since the galaxy's formation. For one infinite moment, two universes touched, and something fell through. Red squadrons screamed toward the Death Star's surface, their X-wings weaving between turbolaser batteries that painted space with lethal light. Inside his cockpit, Luke Skywalker felt the Force guiding his hands, whispering that this trench run would change everything. He was right, but not in the way anyone expected. The rift opened 5 kilometers above the station's northern hemisphere. No warning, no energy signature the Empire's sensors could detect. Reality simply tore open like fabric, and two figures tumbled through into vacuum, surrounded by a corona of crackling golden energy that shouldn't exist in this dimension. What the? Goku spun in the airless void, his gi whipping around him as he instinctively held his breath. Stars blazed in unfamiliar constellations. Below him, if below meant anything in space, a mechanical moon bristled with weapons, and tiny starfighters swarmed around it like insects. "Vegeta! Where are we?" The Saiyan prince snarled, his widow's peak stark against the void as he oriented himself with warrior instinct. "I don't know, Kakarot, but—" He cut off, eyes widening as a TIE fighter screamed past them, its twin ion engines shrieking. "What kind of primitive spacecraft?" The TIE's laser cannons opened fire. Goku twisted mid-air, mid-flight, dodging emerald bolts with ease despite the strange resistance he felt in his movements. Everything felt heavy, wrong, like trying to swim through syrup. His Kai flickered uncertainly, responding to his will, but not with its usual instant precision. Vegeta wasn't dodging. He crossed his arms and let the laser bolts splash harmlessly against his aura, an expression of pure contempt on his face. Pathetic. If this is the best this dimension offers. Another 3 TIE fighters converged on their position. Then we won't be here long. Aboard the Death Star, Grand Moff Tarkin stared at the tactical display with the first flicker of uncertainty he'd felt in years. "What am I looking at, Commander?" "Unknown, sir. 2 humanoid figures, no spacecraft, no life support systems. They're just there, in vacuum, moving under their own power." The officer's voice cracked slightly. "They're not showing up on any classification system. Scanners indicate they're biological, but that's impossible." Impossible is a word for the weak-minded. Darth Vader's vocabulator-distorted voice cut through the command center like a blade. The Dark Lord stood before the viewport, his cape settling around him as he extended his senses. What he felt made something cold coil in his chest. Power. Raw, unfiltered, completely outside the Force, yet somehow similar, like sensing a star's heat without touching the light it gave. They are not of this galaxy. Irrelevant. Tarkin's composure reasserted itself. Eliminate them. All batteries, target those anomalies. I will not have anything interfere with our demonstration of power. Space erupted with fire. Turbo lasers, weapons designed to crack capital ship hulls, converged on the 2 Saiyans from a dozen angles. The void lit up green and red as enough energy to vaporize a small city focused on 2 humanoid targets. Goku's eyes widened. "That's a lot of—" He vanished, reappearing 50 meters away as the beams crossed through empty space where he'd been. Fast, but not instant transmission fast. Whatever was limiting his ki made even his speed feel sluggish, like fighting at 70%. "Okay, these guys are serious," Vegeta growled, throwing up both hands as a turbolaser beam screamed toward him. Golden ki exploded around his palms, catching the energy weapon and redirecting it. The beam carved across the Death Star's hull, scoring a black line through Imperial gray. "Kakarot, something's wrong with my energy. It's not responding correctly." "I feel it too," Goku shouted over the silent roar of weapons fire. He could survive vacuum. Any experienced fighter could hold their breath and protect themselves with Kai for a while. But this wasn't training with Whis or fighting in the hyperbolic time chamber. The very physics of this place felt different, like the universe itself operated on rules that clashed with his nature. Every blast he tried to charge fizzled halfway. Every movement took conscious effort instead of instinct. We need to figure out what's going on before an X-Wing nearly collided with him. Watch it! Wedge Antilles yanked his stick hard, pulling his starfighter into a roll that barely avoided the strange man floating in space. Red Leader, are you seeing this? There are two people out here. No suits, no ships, just flying. I see them, Red 2. Garvin Dryce's voice crackled with static and stress. Gold Squadron had just been annihilated. The trench run was moments away, and now there were impossible beings disrupting their attack pattern. All wings, avoid the unknowns. We have a mission. Red Leader, this is Red 5. Luke's voice, young and urgent. Those aren't people. I can feel them in the Force. They're like stars, burning so bright I can barely maintain formation, Red 5. Goku spun, taking in the battle with a warrior's eye. Massive ships exchanging fire, small fighters being swatted from the sky by defensive weapons. One side clearly outgunned, desperate, throwing themselves against impossible odds. He'd seen this before, on Namek, against Frieza's forces, the strong crushing the weak, his fists clenched. Vegeta, we're in the middle of a war. Obviously, the prince dodged another salvo, his pride stinging at having to avoid rather than simply tank the hits. In his prime, these weapons would be nothing. But here, with his ki stuttering and unreliable, even he had to be careful. The question is, which side do we destroy first? Below them, the Death Star rotated ponderously, its super laser dish tracking toward the distant green-blue orb of Yavin IV. A countdown echoed through Imperial communications. 30 minutes until the rebel base was obliterated. Goku looked at the desperate fighters, at the massive station preparing to fire, at the sheer scale of death about to unfold. He didn't understand the politics, didn't know the factions or the stakes beyond what his eyes showed him, but he understood bullies. And he understood people fighting against impossible odds. Vegeta, his voice carried the weight of decision. We're stopping that big station. Oh? Vegeta's smirk was sharp despite their weakened state. And why should I care about any of these primitives, Kakarot? Because, Goku pointed at the Death Star, at the weapon charging to murder millions. Something tells me the guy in charge of that thing is someone really, really strong. Vegeta's eyes gleamed. You think so? Yeah, and I want to fight him. The Saiyan prince laughed, sharp, predatory, eager. Finally, you say something that makes sense. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. May the Force be with you. Aboard the Executor, Darth Vader ignited his lightsaber. Red plasma hummed to life as he stared at the tactical display, showing two beings who radiated power like nothing he'd ever encountered. Prepare my TIE fighter, he commanded. I will handle this personally. The Battle of Yavin had just become far more complicated. Goku shot forward, his aura flaring gold-white as he accelerated toward the Death Star. The movement felt wrong, sluggish, like pushing through resistance that shouldn't exist. In his own universe, he could cross planetary distances in eye blinks. Here, even basic flight required concentration, his ki responding half a second behind his intent. This place is messing with our energy, he called to Vegeta, who kept pace beside him. It's like our ki doesn't fit right. I noticed, fool. Vegeta's jaw clenched as he pushed harder, his own aura sputtering inconsistently. The prince had conquered worlds, destroyed civilizations, fought gods, and now he struggled with simple flight like a novice learning to levitate. The humiliation burned. It's this dimension's physics. Our life energy operates on principles that don't fully exist here. We're essentially fighting with one arm tied behind our backs. A squadron of TIE fighters broke formation, converging on them in a screaming delta pattern. Laser fire crisscrossed the void in emerald nets designed to trap and eliminate. Goku weaved through the barrage, his instincts compensating for his reduced speed. One TIE came too close. He reached out, grabbed its wing with one hand, and with a casual flick, sent it spinning into its wingman. Both exploded in silent fireballs. Whoever built these things doesn't know much about durability, Goku observed, frowning at his hand. He'd barely touched it. But those energy weapons, he'd felt the heat of the laser that grazed his shoulder. Not enough to hurt, but enough to notice. In his weakened state, sustained fire could actually be dangerous. Vegeta extended his palm, gathering ki for a standard energy blast. The golden sphere formed slowly, flickering, before finally launching with half its normal velocity. It caught a TIE fighter and destroyed it, but the attack had taken 3 times longer than it should have. Unacceptable. Kakarot, we need to adapt quickly, or these insects might actually pose a problem. Then we fight smarter. Goku's expression grew serious, the look that appeared when he stopped treating combat as fun and started treating it as survival. Focus on physical attacks and save energy blasts for when we really need them. Whatever's limiting us, it's affecting our KI projection more than our strength. Inside Red Leader's X-Wing, Garvin Dryce struggled to process what his sensors were telling him. All wings maintain attack approach. Ignore the beings. We have one shot at this. Red Leader, they just destroyed 6 TIE fighters with their bare hands. Biggs Darklighter's voice cracked with disbelief. They're not even armed. They're just grabbing them out of space. I don't care if they're using the Force or black magic. Our mission is the thermal exhaust port, and we have, he checked his chronometer, 26 minutes before that station fires on our base. Stay focused. But focus was impossible when 2 humanoid figures carved through the Imperial defensive screen like it didn't exist, moving in ways that violated every principle of space combat. Luke Skywalker watched them through his canopy, his connection to the Force singing with confusion. He could sense every living thing in the battle, the pilot's fear, Vader's cold determination, even Leia's distant presence on Yavin 4. But these 2, they blazed so brightly in his perception that looking at them through the Force was like staring at twin suns. Not dark, not light, just pure, raw, overwhelming power that existed outside the very framework of the Force itself. R2, can you scan them? The astromech beeped frantically. Unknown species, but they look human. Mostly. Aboard Home 1, Admiral Akbar stared at the tactical display with mounting alarm. What are they? Unknown, sir. The sensor officer's tentacles twitched nervously. They appeared from nowhere. No ships, no hyperspace signature. They're destroying our fighter screen and theirs indiscriminately. Can we communicate? All frequencies open, no response. General Dodonna leaned forward, his weathered face creased with desperate calculation. If they're hostile to the Empire, we might be able to use this distraction. Order Gold Squadron to... Gold Squadron is gone, sir. The officer's voice was hollow. Vader got them all. Silence fell across the command center. Without Gold Squadron's attack run, without their Y-wings to draw defensive fire, the mission was on the edge of failure. Everything rested on Red Squadron now, and on 2 impossible beings who were tearing through the battlefield without apparent allegiance to anyone. Goku felt eyes on him. He turned mid-flight, spotting a formation of wedge-shaped fighters maintaining a cautious distance. They weren't shooting, just watching, calculating. Vegeta, I think some of them are friendly. There's no such thing as friendly in war, Kakarot. There are enemies and temporarily useful allies. But Vegeta had noticed too. The pilots in those X-shaped craft flew with desperate courage, not the casual cruelty of conquerors. It reminded him uncomfortably of his own Saiyan people in their final days. Outmatched, outgunned, fighting because surrender meant extinction. Though I admit, the ones from that massive station seemed to be the aggressors. How can you tell? Vegeta pointed at the Death Star. That weapon is pointed at a planet, and given the energy signature building in its core, his eyes narrowed, his warrior's instinct reading battlefield dynamics. They're preparing to fire. Mass extinction event, probably? Goku's easygoing expression vanished. They're going to blow up a planet? With people on it? Apparently. Then we definitely picked the right target. Goku cracked his knuckles, his aura flaring brighter despite the dimensional resistance. Come on, let's get closer and... Space itself screamed. Darth Vader's tie. Advanced X-1 exploded from the Death Star's hangar bay at maximum acceleration, flanked by 2 wingmen. The Dark Lord's presence cut through the Force like a frozen blade, and even Goku, who had no connection to that mystical energy, felt a chill race down his spine. Vegeta, you feel that? The prince's expression sharpened. Yes, that one. In the angular fighter, he's different from the others. Stronger. Way stronger, Goku agreed, his Saiyan blood singing with anticipation. And he's coming right at us. Inside his TIE fighter, Vader reached out through the Force, probing the two anomalies. What he found defied understanding. They were humanoid, biological, mortal, yet they radiated power that existed entirely outside the Force's framework. It was like encountering a color the eye couldn't process, a sound beyond hearing's range. They were there, undeniably real and dangerous, yet somehow impossible. Lord Vader, his wingman transmitted, what are your orders? Stay back, engage the rebel fighters. These two, his leather glove tightened on the controls, are mine. Vader's TIE fighter accelerated, laser cannons charging. Goku grinned, settling into a fighting stance despite floating in vacuum. Vegeta, I call the guy in the lead ship. Absolutely not, Kakarot. I'm the prince of all Saiyans. I fight the strongest opponent. Vegeta's pride flared. You can have the subordinates. Rock, paper, scissors. We don't have time for your childish... Vader opened fire. Twin laser beams lanced through space, moving far faster and with far more precision than the standard TIE fighter weapons. One caught Vegeta in the shoulder, spinning him. The other would have hit Goku's center mass if the Saiyan hadn't twisted at the last microsecond, the beam scorching his GI. Both Saiyans stopped arguing and stared at the black TIE fighter with new respect. Okay, Goku said slowly, touching the burned fabric. That actually hurt a little. Vegeta probed his shoulder, where the skin showed a faint scorch mark beneath his armor. This pilot isn't like the others, and that craft has modified weapons. Good. Goku's grin widened, taking on the edge of eager ferocity that appeared when he found a worthy challenge. I was worried this would be too easy. Vader's TIE fighter banked, circling them like a predator, assessing prey. Through the Force, the Dark Lord analyzed their movements, their positioning, their body language. Fighters, warriors, possibly the most dangerous opponents he'd faced since Obi-Wan. He toggled his comm to the Death Star. Grand Moff Tarkin, the rebel attack is secondary. These beings are the priority threat. Negative, Lord Vader. Tarkin's voice dripped with aristocratic disdain. Your obsession with Force mysticism is noted, but we have a battle to win and a base to destroy. Eliminate them quickly and return to... They are more dangerous than the entire rebel fleet combined. That's impossible. Vader watched one of the beings, the shorter one with spiky hair, casually catch a turbo laser beam in his hands, redirect it, and send it back at the emitter that fired it. The weapon exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. Impossible, Vader said quietly, is becoming a relative term. Red Leader, we're approaching the Death Star's equatorial trench. Beginning attack run now. Luke Skywalker's X-Wing dropped into formation with Red Squadron, the massive battle station surface rushing past below at dizzying speed. He could hear Ben's voice in his memory. Use the Force, Luke. But right now the Force was screaming confusion at him. Those two beings, the one in black hunting them, the desperation radiating from his fellow pilots. Stay on target, Garvin Dryce commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos. Targeting computer synced. We have one shot at this. Behind them, TIE fighters pursued. Ahead, turbo-laser batteries rotated to track their approach. And somewhere above, two impossible warriors fought a running battle against Darth Vader himself. Goku barely dodged as Vader's TIE fighter strafed past, its laser cannons stitching a line of fire through space. The Dark Lord flew like no pilot Goku had ever seen, not with instruments and sensors, but with pure instinct. Every shot came exactly where Goku was about to be, forcing him to constantly adjust, never finding rhythm. This guy's good, Goku called out, genuine excitement in his voice. It's like he knows where I'm going before I do. Stop playing with him and destroy that fighter, Vegeta snarled, launching a ki blast that Vader rolled away from with contemptuous ease. The prince's attack moved slower than molasses compared to his normal speed, giving Vader plenty of time to evade. Kakarot, we can't waste energy on... Vader's wingmen opened fire from two angles. Vegeta had to break off, cursing as he twisted through the crossfire. One beam clipped his leg, another scorch mark. Another reminder that in this weakened state, he was actually vulnerable. The realization infuriated him. Fine, Vegeta growled. New strategy. Kakarot, break away and hit that station's surface. Draw their defensive fire. I'll handle the pilots. You sure? I can... Just do it. Goku nodded and angled downward, accelerating toward the Death Star's surface. Immediately, dozens of turbo laser batteries swiveled to track him. Space lit up with defensive fire as the Empire's gunners registered a human-sized target somehow approaching at starfighter speeds. Vader watched the spiky-haired one dive toward the station and made a split-second decision. The second anomaly, the shorter, more aggressive one, was dangerous, but the first one radiated a sense of righteous purpose that made him the greater immediate threat. He banked hard, pursuing. Lord Vader, the rebel fighters are entering the trench, his wingman reported. Should we break off and intercept? Negative. Stay on the second target. I'll handle the first. But sir, the trench run is irrelevant if these beings reach the reactor core. Vader accelerated, his TIE fighter screaming after Goku. All batteries, focus fire on the humanoid target approaching grid 7-7. Goku heard the shriek of incoming fire behind him and poured on speed, his aura flaring. The Death Star's surface rushed up to meet him, a landscape of metal towers, communication arrays, and weapon emplacements stretching to every horizon. He hit the hull at full velocity, boots slamming into Imperial gray metal, and started running. Running along the surface of a moon-sized battle station while turbo laser fire chased him and a black starfighter hunted him from above. Okay, Goku muttered, leaping over a defensive gun emplacement. This is definitely different from fighting on King Kai's planet. Inside the trench, Red Squadron pushed deeper toward the exhaust port. Luke's targeting computer chirped as it calculated firing solutions. His hands were steady on the controls, but his mind raced. Those beings, were they on the rebel side? Against them? Did it matter if the Death Star fired on Yavin 4? Almost there, Biggs transmitted. Luke, you ready? Ready, Biggs. Red Leader, I'm hit. Wedge Antilles' X-Wing trailed smoke as TIE fighter fire chewed through his shields. I can't stay with you. Pull up, Red 2, we'll finish this. But they wouldn't. Vader's wingmen had left the alien threats to pursue their original targets, Red Squadron. The TIE fighters dove into the trench with predatory precision, and within seconds they had Biggs in their sights. Luke felt it through the Force. Biggs, watch out! The explosion lit up the trench. Biggs' Darklighter's X-Wing disintegrated in a fireball that seemed to consume the last of Luke's childhood. No! Luke's scream tore through the comm channel. Stay on target, Red Leader commanded, his own voice tight with grief. We're almost... Vader's wingman fired. Red Leader's X-Wing exploded. Luke was alone in the trench, alone with two TIE fighters closing in for the kill in the exhaust port seconds away. He could hear Ben's voice, use the Force, but the Force felt distant, drowned out by the blazing presence of those two warriors somewhere above. On Yavin 4, Princess Leia stood in the command center, watching the tactical display with a face carved from stone. Come on, Luke, she whispered. General Dodonna's expression was grim. He's not going to make it. The TIE fighters are too close. There, someone shouted. On the surface. One of those beings is heading toward the northern polar trench. He's attracting half the defensive batteries. Akbar's eyes widened. They're drawing fire away from Red 5. Deliberately or not, they're giving him a chance. Goku sprinted across the Death Star's hull, turbo laser fire cratering metal behind him with every step. He could sense the battle happening in the trench below. One young pilot, desperate and alone, trying to land an impossible shot. The same kind of desperate courage he'd seen from Gohan, from Krillin, from every friend who'd ever stood beside him against impossible odds. Come on, kid, Goku muttered, leaping over a communications tower. You can do it. Vader's TIE fighter screamed overhead, laser cannons blazing. Goku twisted, caught one beam on his palm, the energy scorching his skin even through his Kai protection, and redirected it into a nearby gun battery. The emplacement exploded. "You're fast," Goku called out, knowing the pilot probably couldn't hear him in vacuum. "And strong. I can feel it. When this is over, I want to fight you properly." In his cockpit, Vader's eyes narrowed behind his mask. The being was speaking. He could see the lip movements through his targeting sensors. What kind of creature fought in vacuum, ran on starship hulls, and still had breath to waste on words? Luke's X-Wing raced toward the exhaust port. His targeting computer beeped. Almost there. Almost. The TIE fighters behind him fired, and somewhere in the Force, Luke felt Ben Kenobi's presence, distant but clear. "Use the Force, Luke. Let go." He switched off his targeting computer. Inside the Death Star's command center, Tarkin watched his tactical display with mounting irritation. The trench run was progressing. The alien beings were causing havoc but hadn't penetrated the hull. Everything was still under control. "Time to target?" he asked calmly. 30 seconds to firing range on the rebel moon, sir." "Prepare to fire on my command." On the display, one X-Wing, the last survivor of Red Squadron, dove toward the exhaust port. Tarkin barely spared it a glance. A single fighter against the Death Star? Absurd. But Darth Vader, locked in pursuit of a spiky-haired being who defied physics itself, felt a disturbance in the Force, a convergence, a moment of destiny about to... Luke fired. The torpedoes lanced into the exhaust port, disappearing into the station's depths. And Goku, running across the Death Star's surface with half the Imperial Navy shooting at him, felt a massive energy signature suddenly spike in the station's core. "Oh no," he breathed. That's a chain reaction." The Force screamed warning half a second too late. Luke pulled up from the trench run, his X-Wing's engines howling as he climbed away from the Death Star's surface. Through his canopy, he saw one of the TIE fighters pursuing him suddenly veer off, its pilot breaking pursuit for no apparent reason. No, there was a reason. The black TIE fighter, the one that had been hunting the strange beings, was now racing back toward the trench at impossible speed. Darth Vader had felt it. The moment the torpedoes entered the exhaust port, the Dark Lord of the Sith felt the future collapse into a single inevitable path. The station's reactor would cascade, the Death Star would die, and so would everyone aboard it if they didn't evacuate immediately. But evacuation wasn't what made Vader abandon his pursuit of the alien warrior. The chain reaction had begun, and both beings, the threats he'd been hunting, were still on the station's hull, completely unaware of what was about to happen. In approximately 90 seconds, the Death Star's core would go critical. The explosion would vaporize everything within 100 kilometers, including two entities whose power signatures suggested they might survive. And if they survived, they would know. They would see. They would understand that Vader had prioritized hunting them over stopping a single rebel fighter, that the Empire's ultimate weapon had been destroyed because the Dark Lord was distracted. Palpatine would not forgive that failure. "All TIE fighters return to hangars immediately," Vader commanded, his TIE advance banking hard. "The station is compromised. Evacuation Protocol Alpha." "Sir?" His wingman's confusion crackled through the comm. "The rebels are retreating. We have them. Obey!" The Force carried Vader's fury through the transmission. "Or die aboard this station. Choose quickly." On the surface, Goku felt the energy signature in the core growing exponentially. He'd sensed enough world-destroying attacks to recognize the signature. This was a planetary-scale explosion building toward critical mass. "Vegeta!" He launched himself off the hull, rising into space. "Get away from the station. It's going to blow." Vegeta, who'd been systematically dismantling a squadron of TIE fighters with brutal efficiency, paused mid-strike. "What? The core, it's..." Goku pointed at the Death Star, where the first visible signs of disaster were emerging. Atmosphere vented from 100 breaches. Internal explosions rippled across the northern hemisphere. Power fluctuations sent entire sectors dark. "We need to move, now!" The prince's eyes widened fractionally. The closest Vegeta came to panic. "How long?" 60 seconds, maybe less. Then we have time." Vegeta's smirk was pure Saiyan arrogance, despite their weakened state. Kakarot formation. If that explosion is as large as you think, we can use it. Use it? Vegeta, what are you? Our Kai is limited here. We're operating at 70, maybe 80% maximum output. Vegeta positioned himself on the opposite side of the Death Star from Goku, his hands already glowing with gathered energy. But if we can channel an external energy source through our bodies while we're attacking, understanding dawned on Goku's face. We can amplify our power, like absorbing a spirit bomb's energy. I don't know what nonsense technique you're referencing, but yes, when this station explodes, we ride the shockwave and redirect its force. The energy will temporarily restore our connection to our full power. That's brilliant, but Goku hesitated. Vegeta, there are people on that station, a lot of them. Enemies, Vegeta said flatly, who were about to murder everyone on that planet. Your point? Goku had no response to that. The people aboard the Death Star had been seconds from committing genocide. He'd stopped Frieza, Cell, Majin Buu, beings who'd killed billions. He'd never lost sleep over their deaths. But something about watching from outside as people burned alive in an exploding space station made his stomach turn. Vegeta saw the hesitation and snarled, Kakarot, if you're having a moral crisis, save it for after we survive. That explosion is coming whether we like it or not. We can either let it kill us in our weakened state, or we can use it to restore our power and actually have a chance of understanding what happened to us. Choose. Inside the Death Star, Klaxon shrieked. Grand Moff Tarkin stood frozen in the command center, watching his tactical display show the systematic failure of every reactor containment system. Around him, officers fled toward escape pods. Entire sections of the station had gone dark. The superweapon that could destroy planets was tearing itself apart from within. Evacuate. Tarkin's voice was eerily calm. In our moment of triumph, I think you overestimate their chances. An officer grabbed his arm. Sir, please, the reactor is critical. We have to... Remove your hand, Commander, or I'll have you shot. Tarkin straightened his uniform. The Death Star is invincible. This is a minor systems failure. We will restore power and... The floor buckled. An explosion ripped through the command center's far wall. Atmosphere rushed out through the breach, taking 3 screaming officers with it. Tarkin's eyes widened with the first genuine emotion he'd shown in years. Understanding. He'd been wrong. The station was doomed, and he would die with it, because pride had blinded him to reality until it was too late. He had just enough time to think Vader was right before the secondary explosion consumed him. Darth Vader's TIE advanced, cleared the Death Star's gravitational influence with seconds to spare. Behind him, the few TIE fighters that had obeyed his orders followed. Everyone else, everyone who'd hesitated, who'd questioned, who'd refused to believe, remained aboard the doomed station. Lord Vader, his wingman transmitted, where do we go? Away, maximum thrust, and pray we clear the blast radius. The blast radius of what? The Death Star exploded. Not all at once. The reactor went critical first, a blinding sphere of white-hot plasma that consumed the core in microseconds. That explosion triggered the secondary reactors, the weapon batteries, the fuel reserves, the magazines, every volatile system aboard the station going up in a cascading chain that turned the entire northern hemisphere into an expanding sphere of nuclear fire. And Goku and Vegeta, positioned on opposite sides of the dying battle station, reached out with their ki and grabbed the explosion. It was insane, suicidal. Completely against every instinct that said you ran from world-ending detonations, not toward them. But they were Saiyans, and Saiyans thrived on insanity. The shockwave hit Goku like a freight train made of fusion fire. Energy, raw, uncontrolled, violent, slammed into him from every direction. His Kai flickered, his body screamed in pain, every cell burning as heat that could vaporize planets washed over him. And then, instead of resisting, he opened himself to it. The dimensional resistance that had been strangling his power suddenly didn't matter. The explosion's energy was universal, fundamental physics that existed in every dimension, every reality. Heat and force and light that transcended the rules limiting his ki. Goku channeled it, let it flow through him, around him, becoming part of his own power structure for one impossible moment. His aura exploded outward, golden and blazing, as his power suddenly surged from 70% to 95%. The familiar sensation of his full strength flooded back, and with it came the ability to think and move at his true speed. On the opposite side of the explosion, Vegeta did the same. The Saiyan prince roared soundlessly in vacuum as the Death Star's death throes restored what this alien dimension had taken from him. His Kai blazed white-hot as his power finally responded with full strength. The Death Star died. A sphere of light that briefly outshone Yavin's sun expanded and then faded, leaving nothing but debris and radiation where the Empire's ultimate weapon had been. And floating in the wreckage, surrounded by fading energy, two Saiyans opened their eyes. Luke Skywalker, fleeing at maximum speed in his battered X-Wing, looked back and saw them. Two figures wreathed in golden light, emerging from the heart of an explosion that should have killed anything organic. "What are they?" he whispered. His comm crackled. "Red 5, this is Home 1. Return to base immediately. We're detecting multiple Imperial capital ships preparing to jump to hyperspace. The battle is over." "Did you see them?" "The two." "We saw. Return to base, Red 5. We have much to discuss." Vegeta flexed his hands, feeling his Kai respond instantly for the first time since arriving in this galaxy. 95% capacity, acceptable. "More than acceptable." Goku grinned, his battle-worn GI flapping around him as his aura settled. "That felt amazing. I haven't been that limited since I was a kid." "Don't celebrate yet, Kakarot. We're still trapped in an alien dimension, with hostile forces and no idea how to return home." Vegeta's eyes tracked the fleeing rebel fighters, the Imperial ships jumping to hyperspace, the devastation floating around them. "Though I admit, that explosion was satisfying." "Yeah." Goku looked at where the Death Star had been, his expression growing serious. "But Vegeta, we need to figure out what happened, why we're here, and that guy in the black ship. Did you feel his energy signature? The dark one?" "Yes." Vegeta's jaw clenched. "He escaped the explosion, and something tells me we'll be seeing him again." In the distance, Vader's TIE Advance hung in space, its pilot staring at the debris field with cold calculation. Two beings, unknown origin, unknown limits. They destroyed the Death Star, or at least facilitated its destruction, and emerged from the explosion stronger than before. The Emperor would want answers. And Vader wanted to know if they would bleed when his lightsaber found their throats. The Imperial Star Destroyer Devastator hung in space like a dagger pointed at the fleeing rebel fleet. On its bridge, Captain Wolf Yularen stood rigid as tactical reports flooded in. Reports that made no sense, violated every principle of warfare he'd learned in 40 years of service, and suggested the galaxy had fundamentally changed in the span of 30 minutes. "Sir, the Death Star is gone. Confirmed total destruction. Casualty estimates," the officer's voice wavered, "approximately 1 million personnel. No survivors detected in the debris field except—" He paused, checking his scanner 3 times as if refusing to believe what it showed. 2 humanoid life signs, unshielded, in vacuum, just floating. Yularen closed his eyes. "The anomalies." "Yes, sir." "Where is Lord Vader?" "Docking in Bay 7 now. He's demanding immediate access to the bridge." As if summoned by mention of his name, the bridge doors hissed open. Darth Vader strode onto the command deck, his cape billowing behind him, his presence making hardened Imperial officers take instinctive steps backward. He moved with purpose, born of fury barely contained. The Dark Lord had failed. The Death Star was destroyed. Grand Moff Tarkin was dead, and the Emperor's wrath would be biblical. "Captain Yularen," Vader's vocabulator distorted voice cut through the bridge's controlled chaos. "All ships are to remain in system. Lock long-range sensors on the 2 anomalies. I want continuous tracking data." "My lord, Admiral Mahdi has ordered a retreat to—" "Admiral Mahdi is not in command here. I am." Vader turned, his mask fixing on the captain with the weight of absolute authority. "Those beings destroyed the Death Star. The Emperor will want them captured or eliminated. We do neither by running." Yularen straightened. "Yes, Lord Vader. Shall I dispatch TIE squadrons to engage?" "No." Vader walked to the viewport, staring at the distant specks of light that were the anomalies. Standard weapons are useless. We saw that. They caught turbo laser fire with their hands, Captain. They redirected planetary-scale energy. TIE fighters would be throwing pebbles at a rancor. Then how do we stop them? Vader's gloved fist clenched. I don't know. Yet. Across the battlefield, the rebel fleet prepared to jump to lightspeed. Damaged ships limped toward the safety of hyperspace coordinates. Medical frigates already treating the wounded. The victory celebrations that should have been deafening were muted. Yes, they'd won. The Death Star was gone. But at what cost? And what were those things that had emerged from the explosion? Home 1 to all ships, Admiral Akbar's voice carried across the fleet. Prepare for jump to hyperspace on my mark. We're not waiting to see what the Empire does next. Princess Leia stood beside him, her face pale but composed. What about Red 5? He's damaged but mobile. He'll make the jump. And them? She pointed at the tactical display where two contacts floated in the debris field, seemingly unharmed despite surviving a detonation that vaporized everything around them. Akbar's large eyes reflected the display's light. I have no idea what they are, Your Highness, but I know we need to leave before they decide we're next. They saved us, Leia said quietly. They distracted the Empire's defenses, drew fire away from Luke's trench run. Whether they meant to or not, they gave us the opening we needed. Or they simply provided chaos that happened to favor our mission. Dodonna joined them, his expression grim. We can't assume they're allies. We can't assume anything about them except that they're dangerous beyond measure. Leia wanted to argue, wanted to believe that beings powerful enough to survive what they'd survived would be heroes, not threats. But she'd learned harsh lessons about power and corruption. Sometimes the most dangerous beings were those who thought their strength made them righteous. All ships ready for hyperspace, Admiral. Jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The rebel fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving Yavin's system to the Empire and the unknown. Goku watched the ships vanish with fascination. Did they just disappear? How did they? Faster than light travel, Vegeta observed, his tactical mind analyzing what he'd seen. Crude, but effective. This civilization has interstellar capability, but no key manipulation, no instant transmission. Interesting. They're running from those. Goku pointed at the massive triangular ships hanging in space, bristling with weapons. The bad guys, I'm guessing. The aggressors, certainly. Vegeta crossed his arms, floating comfortably in vacuum now that his ki had fully stabilized. Which means we've inadvertently chosen a side by destroying their weapon platform. We didn't destroy it. That kid in the small ship did. We just helped. Semantics. The Empire. Vegeta paused, frowning. How do I know that word? Empire? Goku concentrated, surprised to find information surfacing in his mind that definitely hadn't been there minutes ago. I know it too. In other words, rebels, hyperspace, turbo laser. It's like, he touched his temple, like fighting in that explosion downloaded information into our heads. Not downloaded, translated. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. The dimensional interface. When we channeled the Death Star's destruction, we temporarily bridged the gap between our universe and this one. Our KE adapted to local physics, and in doing so, absorbed fundamental knowledge about this reality. Language, basic cultural context, just enough to function. That's convenient. That's survival adaptation, you fool. Our Saiyan biology is adjusting to an alien environment the same way it adjusts to gravity or atmosphere. Vegeta tested his ki again. Still 95%, still stable. We might even reach full capacity given enough time here. A transmission cut across the void. Tight beam, directed specifically at them. Both Saiyans paused, heads tilting as they heard electromagnetic signals their adapted biology could now interpret. Unknown entities. The voice was cold, mechanical, utterly devoid of warmth. This is Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. You have destroyed Imperial property and killed Imperial citizens. Surrender immediately or you will be eliminated. Goku blinked. Can he hear us if we talk? No, you idiot. We're in vacuum. But Vegeta's eyes tracked the Star Destroyers. noting how their weapon batteries were all aimed at them. He's given us an ultimatum. Surrender or fight. Surrender's not really our style. No, it's not. Vegeta's smirk returned, sharp and predatory. So we fight? Well, Goku scratched his head, looking at the kilometers-long warships, the thousands of weapons, the obvious firepower disparity. Fighting all of them seems kind of excessive. We already blew up their big station. Maybe we should... The Star Destroyers opened fire. Turbo lasers, ion cannons, and missile batteries unleashed a barrage that lit up space like a star-going nova. Thousands of weapons, all focused on two human-sized targets, firing with imperial precision and overwhelming force. Goku sighed. Never mind, we're fighting. He vanished, reappearing a kilometer away as turbo laser fire crossed through the space he'd occupied. Vegeta didn't bother dodging. He threw up a ki barrier, letting the barrage splash against his energy shield while he analyzed the attack patterns. Impressive firepower, the prince admitted, but predictable. They're using area saturation tactics because they can't track our movements accurately. Their sensors aren't built for targets our size moving at our speeds. So they're just shooting everywhere and hoping to hit us? Goku weaved through another salvo, his movements relaxed despite the lethal light show around him. That's not very efficient. It's all they have. To them, we're like trying to shoot a fly with a capital ship. Technically possible, but the fly moves faster than their weapons can track. Vegeta dropped his barrier and accelerated toward the nearest Star Destroyer. Let's show them exactly how outclassed they are. On the Devastator's bridge, Yularen watched his gunners pour concentrated fire on targets that simply wouldn't die. Status? No hits confirmed, sir. They're too fast. Targeting computers can't maintain locks at those velocities. What about saturation fire? We're executing maximum saturation now. It's not working. Vader stood at the viewport, reaching out through the Force. He couldn't sense the beings directly. They existed outside the Force's framework, but he could sense the space around them, the disturbances they caused, the reality warping effect of their power. And what he sensed made his blood run cold. They weren't even trying. They were dodging casually, almost playfully, like this was a training exercise rather than a battle for survival. Cease fire, Vader commanded. My lord, cease fire immediately. We're wasting ammunition and exposing our positions. He turned from the viewport. Prepare my shuttle and summon the Executor. We're going to need more than conventional weapons for this. The Executor? My lord, that's Grand Admiral Thrawn's. The Grand Admiral will comply or answer to the Emperor. Do it. Yularen hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Lord Vader. In space, the turbo laser fire ceased. Goku and Vegeta floated amid the debris field, surrounded by fading energy dissipation in the silence of vacuum. They stopped shooting, Goku observed. They realized it was pointless. Vegeta studied the Star Destroyers, noting how they were repositioning, not for attack, but for retreat. Interesting. Their commander is tactically competent. He knows he can't win conventionally, so he's pulling back to reassess. Should we stop them? From running, no, let them go. Vegeta's expression turned calculating. We need time to understand this galaxy, Kakarot. Its factions, its conflicts, its power structures. Killing everyone here accomplishes nothing except making more enemies before we know who our enemies should be. Goku nodded slowly. So what do? We find allies, information, and most importantly, Vegeta's eyes gleamed. We figure out how to get home, or if we even can. The Star Destroyers began jumping to hyperspace, one by one disappearing in flashes of pseudo-motion. Only Vader's shuttle remained, hanging in space like a challenge. And inside that shuttle, the Dark Lord of the Sith stared at the two beings through the viewport. Power, raw, unfiltered, outside every framework he understood. The Emperor would want them captured, studied, turned to serve the Empire. Vader knew better. These weren't beings you captured. These were forces of nature that either destroyed you or moved on, and he would need to be far more prepared before their next encounter. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace. Goku and Vegeta were alone in the Yavin system, surrounded by wreckage, watched by distant sensors, and completely stranded in an alien galaxy. Well, Goku said cheerfully, this is going to be interesting. Vegeta just glared at him. Yavin the forest jungles whispered with life. Massive trees stretched toward a sky dominated by the gas giant's orange-red glow. Their canopies alive with creatures that had never seen an empire, never known a rebellion, never heard of the Force. In ancient temples reclaimed by the jungle, the Rebel Alliance had built their base, a fortress of hope hidden in primordial green. And now that base was celebrating. They did it! Pilots crowded the command center, embracing, weeping, shouting themselves hoarse. The Death Star is gone! We actually won! Princess Leia moved through the celebration like a ghost, her diplomatic mask firmly in place, despite the exhaustion threatening to drag her down. Yes, they'd won. The Death Star was destroyed. Alderaan was still dead, but billions of other lives had been saved. So why did she feel like they'd opened a door they couldn't close? Your Highness, Admiral Akbar appeared at her side, his voice cutting through the noise. We need to discuss the anomalies, the beings who emerged from the explosion. Yes, our long-range sensors tracked them until we jumped to hyperspace. They survived, and they remained in system after we left. His large eyes reflected concern. Princess, we need to know what they are, where they came from, and whose side they're on. Send a scout ship, General Dodonna interjected, joining them. Armed, but with orders to communicate, not engage. If they're hostile, we need to know immediately. If they're potential allies... He paused, considering the implications. We need them far more than they need us. Leia nodded slowly. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. I'll go myself. Absolutely not, Akbar said flatly. You're far too valuable to... Which is precisely why I should go. If they're as powerful as our sensors suggest, sending anyone less than a member of the royal family would be an insult. And if they're hostile... She met his eyes. No amount of military force will save whoever we send. At least I can try to negotiate. I'll go with her. Luke Skywalker pushed through the crowd, his flight suit still scorched from the battle. His face was drawn, aged by the loss of Biggs, but his eyes held a determination Leia recognized, the look of someone who'd seen the impossible and refused to flinch. I need to meet them. The Force is... they're important. I don't know how or why, but they're important. Dodonna studied the young pilot. You destroyed the Death Star, son. You're a hero. We can't risk losing you on a first contact mission with unknowns. With respect, General, I don't think it matters who we send. If they want to kill us, they will. If they want to talk... Luke touched his lightsaber, Ben's weapon, now his. Then maybe having someone who can sense them through the Force will help. Leia wanted to argue, wanted to protect this farm boy who'd somehow become the galaxy's most important person, but he was right. This wasn't a battle they could win with conventional tactics. Prepare the shuttle, she said quietly. We leave in 1 hour. In the Yavin system's debris field, Goku floated amid the wreckage of the Death Star, staring at a twisted piece of metal that might have been someone's workstation. His reflection stared back at him. Same face, same GI, but different eyes. Haunted eyes. 1 million people, he said softly. Vegeta, there were 1 million people on that station. The prince drifted nearby, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Yes, and those 1 million people were seconds from murdering billions. You saw that planet, Yavin, the green one? That station was going to destroy it. Everyone, everything, erase like it never existed. I know they were bad, but... Goku clenched his fists. We could have stopped them another way. We could have... Could have what? Vegeta's voice was sharp. Disabled the station? Evacuated everyone? Kakarot, we were operating at 70% capacity in an unknown dimension. We barely survived fighting 1 pilot. If we'd tried to save that station's crew, we'd have failed and died in the explosion anyway. Maybe, but we didn't even try. Because trying would have been suicide. Vegeta moved closer, his expression intense. Listen to me. I've conquered worlds. I've served tyrants. I've done things that would make your bleeding heart explode with moral outrage. And I'm telling you, what happened here was war. Not murder, war. Those people chose their side, and their side lost. That's not on us. Goku wanted to argue, wanted to say that life was precious, that even enemies deserve chances at redemption, that killing 1 million people, even to save billions, left a stain on your soul. But he'd killed before. Cell, Majin Buu, Frieza, multiple times. Beings who'd murdered billions themselves. Was this different? Or was he just feeling guilty because he'd watched it happen instead of fighting face to face? I don't like it, he said finally. You don't have to like it. You just have to accept it. Vegeta turned away, scanning the debris field. Now focus. We're stranded in an alien dimension, Kakarot. We need to figure out how we got here and how to get back. Everything else is secondary. You think we can get back? I think if we don't, Bulma will find a way to travel between dimensions just so she can kill me herself for abandoning Trunks. Despite the grim situation, Vegeta's lips twitched toward a smile. That woman is terrifying when she's angry. Goku laughed, a brief, genuine sound that cut through his melancholy. Yeah, Chi-Chi's probably already planning my funeral, or my murder. Depends on her mood. Then we'd better... Vegeta paused, his eyes snapping to a point in space. We have company. A shuttle emerged from hyperspace, small and unarmed, broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple. Unknown beings, this is Princess Leia Organa of the Rebel Alliance. We wish to speak with you. We mean no harm. Goku and Vegeta exchanged glances. They're brave, Goku observed, coming back here after everything that happened. They're desperate, Vegeta corrected. They want to know if we're allies or threats. Sensible, from a tactical perspective. He studied the shuttle. What do you think, Kakarot? Talk to them or ignore them? Talk, definitely. We need information about this place. And Goku's expression softened. They just lost a lot of people fighting that empire. Maybe we can help them. Help them? Vegeta's tone was incredulous. We're not heroes, Kakarot. We're stranded warriors trying to survive. We're heroes, Goku said firmly. Or at least I am. You're working on it. Vegeta glared but didn't argue. Instead, he pointed at the shuttle. Fine. But I do the talking. You have the diplomatic skills of a concussed ape. Hey, prove me wrong. The shuttle drifted closer, its pilot clearly nervous about approaching two beings who'd survived a planetary-scale explosion. Inside, Leia gripped her seat's armrests, while Luke reached out through the Force, trying to understand what he was sensing. They're so bright, Luke whispered. Like touching the sun. I can't read them at all. Can you tell if they're hostile? No, they're just there, existing on a level I can't comprehend. He opened his eyes, meeting Leia's gaze. But I don't feel darkness. Not like Vader. They're not evil. Not evil doesn't mean safe, Leia pointed out. She triggered the comm. Unknown beings. I am Princess Leia Organa of Alderaan. This is Luke Skywalker, the pilot who destroyed the Death Star. We wish to speak with you about what happened here. For a long moment, nothing. Then impossibly, a voice responded, not through the comm, but directly into their minds. Both Leia and Luke gasped at the intrusion. Sorry about that. We can't exactly talk in space the normal way. I'm Goku. This is Vegeta. We're not from around here. Luke's jaw dropped. Did he just... Telepathy, Leia breathed. He's speaking through telepathy. Close enough. Look, we're sorry about scaring everyone. We didn't mean to end up in the middle of your battle. We were just somewhere else. And then we were here. And there was shooting. And we kind of had to fight back. A second voice, colder and more regal. What Kakarot is failing to articulate is that we arrived via dimensional breach during your conflict. We have no allegiance to either side and want only to understand what happened and how to return home. Leia processed this, her diplomatic training kicking in. Dimensional breach. Not aliens from another system. Visitors from another reality entirely. That explained why they violated every physical law, why they could survive in vacuum, why they were so impossibly powerful. You're from another universe, she said aloud, knowing they could hear her. Apparently. And yours is very different from ours. Our energy doesn't work right here. Everything feels limited. You call this limited? Luke couldn't help but laugh. You survived the Death Star's explosion. We channeled it, used its energy to restore our connection to our natural power. The second voice, Vegeta, held notes of pride. In our universe, we're not particularly special. Powerful, yes, but there are many who could match us. Here, apparently, we're anomalies. Leia made a decision. We'd like to speak with you face to face. Our base is on the fourth moon, Yavin the 4. Will you come? As our guests, not prisoners. We can't imprison you even if we wanted to. Silence, then. Why should we trust you? Because, Leia chose her words carefully, you're stranded in a galaxy you don't understand, surrounded by forces you don't know. The Empire will hunt you. Others will fear you. But we're the ones who just fought against tyranny and won, partially thanks to the chaos you created. If you want allies in this galaxy, we're your best option. More silence. Then, she makes a good point, Vegeta. I don't trust easily, Kakarot. Neither do I. But we need information, and they're offering it freely. Fine. But if this is a trap, if it's a trap, we fight our way out. Like always. The shuttle's sensors detected movement. Both beings were approaching, moving through space like it was air, their bodies glowing faintly with golden energy. Luke stared through the viewport as they came closer. Human. Or close enough. The first, Goku, had wild black hair that defied gravity, wearing strange orange and blue clothing torn from battle. His face was open, curious, almost childlike despite the power radiating from him. The second, Vegeta, was shorter, more compact, with a widow's peak and an expression of perpetual suspicion. He moved like a predator, every gesture controlled, dangerous. His armor was damaged but intact, and his eyes held the weight of someone who'd seen civilizations burn. Open the airlock, Leia commanded. Your Highness, they're in vacuum. If we open they'll be fine. Open it. The airlock cycled. Atmosphere rushed out, and Goku and Vegeta simply floated inside like it was the most natural thing in the universe, their golden auras protecting them from depressurization. The inner door opened. They landed lightly on the deck, and suddenly the shuttle felt far too small. Leia stood smoothing her white dress, every inch the diplomat despite the fear coiling in her stomach. Welcome aboard. I'm Princess Leia Organa. This is Luke Skywalker. Goku smiled, warm, genuine, disarming. Hi. Sorry about all the confusion back there. This is all really new to us. Vegeta said nothing, his arms crossed, his eyes cataloging every detail of the shuttle, the weapons lockers, the escape pods, the pilots, calculating threats, planning exits. Luke swallowed hard. Up close, the Force sang around them even louder. You're not Force sensitive, are you? Force? Goku tilted his head. Is that the energy I felt from that guy in the black ship? The dark, cold one? Darth Vader, Leia supplied. And yes, he wields the dark side of the Force. It's a mystical energy that binds the galaxy together. Some can manipulate it. Most can't. Sounds like Kai, Goku said. Life energy. We use it to fight, fly, all kinds of stuff. But here, it doesn't work as well. You fought Vader? Luke's voice rose. What was he like? Fast, skilled, dangerous. Vegeta spoke for the first time aloud, his voice carrying an accent they couldn't place. He predicted my movements like he could see the future, and his weapon, that blade of light, cut through energy like it was nothing. Impressive for this dimension's technology level. That's a lightsaber, Luke said, drawing his own. The blue blade hummed to life. The weapon of a Jedi Knight. Goku's eyes widened with delight. Whoa, that's so cool. Can I? No. Vegeta grabbed his arm. Kakarot, focus. We're here for information, not to play with toys. But it's a sword made of light. Leia found herself smiling despite everything. These beings, powerful enough to destroy worlds, and one of them had the enthusiasm of a child. Perhaps later. For now, we should return to base. Our leaders will want to meet you, and we have much to discuss. Like what? Vegeta's suspicion hadn't diminished. Like where you'll go, what you'll do, and whether the Empire will hunt you. Leia's expression hardened. They've already retreated, but they'll be back, stronger, and they'll want you dead or controlled. The Emperor doesn't tolerate threats to his power. Let them try, Vegeta said dismissively. They will. And when they do, Leia met his eyes, you'll need allies who understand this galaxy's politics, resources, and strategies. We can offer that. In exchange, she hesitated. In exchange, we'd ask for your help against the Empire, not as soldiers, but as deterrents, symbols that the Empire isn't invincible. You want to use us, Vegeta observed. I want to survive, Leia corrected. And so do you. This can be mutually beneficial. Goku looked at Vegeta. Vegeta looked back. Some unspoken communication passed between them, the understanding of warriors who'd fought together so long they didn't need words. We'll hear what your leaders have to say, Goku said finally, but we're not making promises. We don't know enough about this place yet. That's fair. Leia settled back into her seat. Pilot, take us home. The shuttle turned toward Yavin 4, carrying 2 Saiyans, a princess, and a farm boy who'd become a hero. Behind them, the debris of the Death Star continued its slow orbital decay, a monument to power's fragility and the chaos of war. And in the depths of space, Imperial sensors watched everything, recording data that would soon reach the Emperor's throne room on Coruscant. The galaxy was about to change. Whether for better or worse remained to be seen. The rebel base erupted into barely controlled panic as Leia's shuttle descended. Word had spread. 2 beings who could survive in vacuum, who'd emerged from the Death Star's explosion unharmed, were coming here, to their home, their sanctuary. All personnel to defensive positions, someone shouted. Belay that order. General Dodonna's voice cut through the chaos with command authority. These are potential allies, not confirmed hostiles. All personnel will stand down and maintain professional conduct. That's an order. In the hangar bay, rebel soldiers and technicians lined up, trying to look welcoming while their hands stayed close to blasters. The shuttle touched down with a hiss of repulsor lifts, and the ramp lowered. Princess Leia emerged first, her bearing regal despite her obvious exhaustion. Luke followed, still processing everything he'd felt during the flight. And behind them, Goku stepped out and immediately grinned. Wow, this place is amazing. Is that whole building made of stone? How old is it? The tension broke slightly. Several rebels exchanged confused glances. This being who'd fought Darth Vader and survived a planetary explosion was marveling at ancient temple architecture like a tourist. Vegeta emerged with considerably more dignity, his eyes scanning the assembled forces with tactical precision. Primitive facilities, minimal technological infrastructure, high humidity, poor defensive positioning. He glanced at Dodonna. You're one major assault away from complete annihilation. We're aware, Dodonna said dryly, but we're alive and the Death Star isn't. I call that a victory. Temporary victory, Vegeta corrected. The Empire you described doesn't strike me as the type to accept defeat gracefully. No, they're not. Dodonna gestured toward the command center. If you'll follow me, we have much to discuss. As they walked through the base, Goku stared at everything with unbridled curiosity. The aliens, so many different species. The technology, starships and droids and weapons he'd never imagined. The people, soldiers fighting for freedom against impossible odds, just like the Z fighters. This is so cool, he whispered to Luke, who walked beside him. Your galaxy has so much variety. We have different races too, but nothing like this. Luke found himself relaxing slightly. Whatever else these beings were, Goku at least seemed genuinely good-hearted. What's your universe like? Lots of planets, lots of strong fighters. We have gods. 2, literal gods. I've fought some of them. There are these things called Dragon Balls that grant wishes, and... Goku's eyes lit up. Wait, do you have anything like that here? Something that could send us home? I don't think so. Luke looked helplessly at Leia. We have hyperspace travel and the Force, Leia said carefully. But interdimensional travel? That's beyond our understanding. The Force might. The Force couldn't cause what happened to us, Vegeta interrupted. We analyzed the energy signature during our arrival. It was a fundamental tear in dimensional barriers, likely caused by massive energy discharge intersecting with a pre-existing weak point in space-time, the Death Star's super laser firing through an unstable region. Every head turned to stare at him. "What?" Vegeta scowled. "I'm a warrior, not an idiot. I understand physics." "He's really smart," Goku said proudly. "He acts all tough, but he's actually brilliant. Figured out time travel once." "That was Bulma's work, and I helped marginally," Vegeta muttered, but his expression softened fractionally. They reached the command center where Admiral Akbar, General Dodonna, Mon Mothma, and several other Alliance leaders waited. The room fell silent as Goku and Vegeta entered, their presence somehow making the spacious chamber feel cramped. Mon Mothma stepped forward, her white robes immaculate, her face composed. "Welcome to the Rebel Alliance. I am Mon Mothma, one of the Alliance's founding members. We owe you a debt of gratitude." "You don't owe us anything," Goku said immediately. "We didn't come here to help. We just ended up in the middle of your battle. Nevertheless, your presence disrupted the Empire's defenses at a critical moment. Luke was able to complete his mission partially because you drew fire away from his attack run." She gestured to chairs. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Vegeta remained standing, arms crossed. Goku sat down, looking around with interest at the holographic displays showing star charts he didn't recognize. "First," Mon Mothma continued, "we need to understand what you are, where you come from, and what you want from this galaxy." "We're Saiyans," Vegeta said bluntly, "a warrior race from Universe 7. We arrived here through accidental dimensional breach and want only to return home. We have no interest in your conflicts." "Universe 7? Akbar's tentacles twitched. "You're suggesting a multiverse theory?" "I'm not suggesting. I'm stating fact." Vegeta's patience was clearly limited. "Your universe, let's call it Universe 1 for simplicity, operates on different physical principles than ours. Your force doesn't exist in our reality. Our key manipulation barely functions in yours. We're dimensionally incompatible, which is why we're having this conversation instead of simply leaving." "Can you return home?" Dodonna asked the critical question. Goku and Vegeta exchanged glances. "We don't know," Goku admitted. "The rift that brought us here is gone. We'd need to find another one, or create one ourselves." "Creating dimensional rifts requires massive energy," Vegeta added. "The Death Star's super laser output might have been sufficient, but obviously that's no longer an option." "So you're trapped here," Mon Mothma said softly. "Temporarily." Vegeta's voice carried absolute confidence. "We've faced worse problems. We'll adapt, survive, and find a way home. It's what Saiyans do. In the meantime," Mon Mothma pressed gently, "you'll need resources, food, shelter, information about this galaxy. The Alliance can provide those things in exchange for—" "We're not mercenaries," Vegeta cut her off. "We don't fight for hire. I wasn't suggesting that, but the Empire will hunt you. They fear what they can't control, and you represent power beyond anything they've encountered. If you want to survive here, you need allies who understand how this galaxy works. And in exchange," Goku said, catching on, "you want us to help you fight the Empire. Only if you choose to. We wouldn't force you." Mon Mothma's expression was sincere. "But yes, your help would be invaluable. The Death Star is destroyed, but the Empire remains. Billions suffer under its tyranny. If you're here, stranded and searching for a way home, why not help free people while you look?" Goku's eyes lit up. That was exactly his kind of thinking. But Vegeta's expression darkened. "You're asking us to involve ourselves in a war we don't understand, against an enemy we haven't analyzed, for people who mean nothing to us." The prince's voice was ice. "Why would we do that?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Luke said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. He stood, his hand on his lightsaber, his young face earnest. "I saw what the Empire did to my aunt and uncle. I saw what they did to Alderaan, Princess Leia's entire world. Billions of people, just gone. And I know there are millions more who'll die if the Empire isn't stopped. You're powerful, more powerful than anything we've ever seen. If you can help save lives, don't you have an obligation to?" "No," Vegeta said flatly. "Power doesn't create obligation. I've spent my life serving those who thought strength meant they could command others. I won't be commanded again. No one's commanding you, Leia said quietly. We're asking. There's a difference. Silence fell across the command center. Goku scratched his head, clearly torn. Vegeta's face was carved from stone, revealing nothing. Then unexpectedly, Vegeta spoke. Kakarot, your opinion. Goku blinked. Really? You're asking me? Don't make me regret it. Goku stood, walking to one of the displays showing Yevon the Four. When I was a kid, I was really weak. I got hurt all the time. But I trained hard, got stronger, and I used that strength to protect people. That's what being strong means to me. Not just fighting, but protecting those who can't protect themselves. He turned to face the Alliance leaders. But Vegeta's right too. We're not from here. We don't know your history, your conflicts, or whether your cause is actually just. We've only seen one battle. For all we know, this empire might have legitimate reasons for what they do. They destroyed an entire planet to make a point. Leia's voice shook with restrained fury. 2 billion people. My people. My home. What legitimate reason exists for that? Goku's expression sobered. None. Okay, you're right. No reason justifies that. He looked at Vegeta. What do you think? The prince was quiet for a long moment. I think we need more information before making any commitments. We'll stay here temporarily. Observe. Learn about this galaxy and its conflicts. And if we decide the Empire truly is as tyrannical as you claim, we'll consider offering assistance. That's all we ask, Mon Mothma said, relief evident in her voice. But understand this. Vegeta's eyes swept the room. We're not soldiers in your army. We're not subordinates. If we fight on our terms, using our methods. And if we decide this conflict isn't worth our involvement, we leave. Clear? Crystal clear, Dodonna said. Though I doubt we'd be able to give you orders, even if we tried. Vegeta smirked. Accurate assessment. Then we're agreed. Mon Mothma extended her hand. Welcome to the Rebel Alliance, for however long you choose to stay. Goku shook her hand enthusiastically. Vegeta simply nodded. One more thing, Leia said. The Empire will come looking for you. Darth Vader especially. He won't rest until he understands what you are and how to defeat you. Good. Vegeta's smirk widened. I'm looking forward to a rematch. That pilot showed promise. He's more than a pilot, Luke said quietly. He's the second most powerful Force user alive. Only the Emperor surpasses him, and they'll both want you dead or controlled. Let them try, Goku said cheerfully. We've fought gods. Vegeta's fought me, and we're both still here. One Emperor doesn't scare us. The Alliance leaders exchanged glances, uncertain whether to be reassured or terrified by that confidence. We'll provide quarters for you, Akbar said, and access to our database so you can learn about the galaxy. After that, we'll see what happens. As they were led away, Dodonna leaned close to Mon Mothma. Did we just recruit the most powerful allies in the galaxy, or make the most dangerous mistake of our lives? Yes, Mon Mothma said simply. To both. The throne room on Coruscant was a cathedral of darkness. Obsidian pillars rose toward a ceiling lost in shadow, and at the room's center, Emperor Palpatine sat on his throne, like a spider at the web's heart. His hood concealed most of his face, but his yellow eyes gleamed with malevolent intelligence as he studied the holographic report floating before him. The Death Star, destroyed, 1 million personnel, dead. Grand Moff Tarkin, dead. And 2 beings of unknown origin had emerged from the explosion unharmed. Interesting, Palpatine hissed, his voice like ancient leather scraping stone. Most interesting. Darth Vader knelt before his master, his respirator the only sound in the vast chamber. The anomalies are powerful beyond conventional measurement, my master. They exist outside the Force's framework, yet radiate energy signatures comparable to dark-side nexuses. You engage them. Briefly, they survived turbo-laser fire, operated in vacuum without equipment, moved at speeds that defied targeting systems, and caught energy weapons with their bare hands. Vader's fist clenched. Standard Imperial tactics are ineffective. We would need specialized approaches to combat them. Combat them? Palpatine leaned forward, his eyes glittering. My dear apprentice, why would we want to combat them when we could control them. They won't submit willingly, Master. I sense their nature. Proud, powerful, accustomed to freedom. The taller one radiates naive righteousness. The shorter one burns with pride that rivals any Sith. Neither will kneel easily. Everything kneels eventually, Palpatine said softly. Everyone has a weakness, a desire, a fear. We simply must discover theirs. He waved his withered hand, and the hologram shifted to show sensor readings from the battle. You said they arrived via dimensional breach? Yes, the Death Star's super laser firing through an unstable region of space-time. The energy discharge tore a hole between realities. Fascinating. Palpatine's mind was already working through possibilities. They're trapped here then, away from their home dimension, desperate to return. His smile was a terrible thing. Desperation breeds compliance, Lord Vader. We need only offer them what they want most. You would help them return home? I would promise to help them return home, Palpatine corrected. There's a difference. And in the meantime, while we research dimensional travel, they would serve the Empire. Willingly at first, then through chains of obligation and gratitude. By the time they realize the deception, they'd be too entangled to escape. And if they resist, then we eliminate them. Palpatine's voice hardened. But I prefer not to waste such power. The Rebel Alliance just lost the Death Star, their greatest victory. Imagine their despair when the beings who inadvertently aided them joined the Empire instead. Vader processed this. It was elegant, cruel, exactly his master's style. What would you have me do? Find them, not to fight, to negotiate. Offer them imperial resources to research the dimensional travel. Appeal to their pride, their desire to return home. Promise them anything they want. Palpatine's eyes gleamed. And Lord Vader, do try not to kill them this time. At least not until we've exhausted their usefulness. As you command, my master. As Vader rose to leave, Palpatine spoke again. There is another matter. The boy who destroyed the Death Star, Skywalker. Vader froze. What of him? I sense the Force is strong with him, strong enough to matter. Have him investigated. If he proves worthy, Palpatine's smile widened. Perhaps he could replace an apprentice who fails to capture two-dimensional refugees. Vader said nothing, but behind his mask his thoughts churned with dark intent. On Yavin the Four, Goku sat cross-legged on the temple's highest platform, staring up at the gas giant dominating the night sky. The jungle hummed with life around him. Insects, creatures he had no names for. The rustle of something large moving through the canopy. It was peaceful in a way that reminded him of Mount Pausu. Can't sleep? Luke climbed up to join him, moving with the quiet grace of someone training to be a Jedi. Don't need much sleep, Goku said cheerfully. Saiyan biology. We can go days without rest when we need to. You? Too much adrenaline. Too many thoughts. Luke sat down beside him. I keep replaying the battle. Biggs died. So many others. And we won, but it doesn't feel like winning. Victories are like that sometimes, Goku said quietly. I once won a tournament where my best friend got hurt because I wasn't strong enough to protect him. Everyone said I should celebrate, but all I could think about was how I'd failed. What did you do? Trained harder, got stronger, promised myself I'd never let anyone get hurt because I was too weak. Goku's expression grew serious. But people still got hurt. No matter how strong I became, I couldn't protect everyone. It's frustrating. Luke was quiet for a moment. The Force teaches us to accept what we can't control, to find peace with loss. Does it work? I don't know yet. I'm still learning. Luke studied the strange warrior beside him. Can I ask you something? When you use your energy, your Kai, what does it feel like? Goku considered. Like breathing, but with your whole body. Like there's power inside you and you just let it out. It's natural, instinctive. After enough training, you don't even think about it. He looked at Luke. The Force isn't like that? No, the Force is external. It flows through all living things, binds the galaxy together. Jedi learn to sense it, channel it, but it's not ours. It's borrowed power. That sounds limiting. It's humbling, Luke corrected. It reminds us we're part of something greater. Huh. Goku stretched out, feeling his Kai pulse through his body, still at 95%, still stable. I guess Kai is like that too. It's a life energy, right? So it connects all living things. Maybe it's not that different. Maybe, Luke hesitated. Can you sense people's energy? Their emotions? Yeah, I can feel power levels, sense if someone's good or evil, even track specific people across planetary distances if I know their signature. Goku closed his eyes, extending his senses. Right now, I can feel lots of people in the base. Most are nervous, some are excited. That princess, Leia, she's sad but hiding it really well. And there's, he frowned, someone in the jungle. Watching us. Luke tensed. Hostile? No, just curious. Goku opened his eyes and waved at the darkness. Hi. A moment later, Chewbacca emerged from the foliage, his Wookiee fur blending with the shadows. He roared a greeting. I have no idea what you said, Goku admitted cheerfully. But hi anyway. You're really tall. Luke laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd managed since Biggs died. That's Chewbacca. He's Han Solo's co-pilot. Han Solo. Is that the guy who showed up at the end of the battle? In the really fast ship? Goku's eyes lit up. That was amazing. He saved you. Yeah, he did. Luke smiled. I should introduce you properly. Han's prickly. But he's a good person under the Smuggler Act. I like him already. Anyone who saves a friend is okay with me. Chewbacca approached, studying Goku with intelligent eyes. He reached out one massive paw cautiously, as if testing whether the strange warrior would react badly to being touched. Goku stood and shook the offered paw enthusiastically. Nice to meet you. I'm Goku. The Wookiee roared again, this time with what sounded like approval. He turned to Luke and rumbled something that made the young Jedi laugh. He says you have good energy, Luke translated, and he wants to know if you'd arm wrestle him. Really? Goku's grin was pure excitement. Sure, but fair warning, I'm really strong. What followed was a contest that woke half the base. Chewbacca, who could tear a man's arms from their sockets, strained with all his might against Goku's arm. The Saiyan wasn't even trying, just holding position while chatting cheerfully about how impressed he was with Wookiee strength. When it was over, Chewbacca roared with laughter and patted Goku on the back hard enough to stagger a normal human. Goku just grinned. Elsewhere in the base, Vegeta stood in the data archive, holographic displays surrounding him as he absorbed information at superhuman speed. Alliance history, Imperial tactics, galactic politics, hyperspace navigation principles, the Force and its properties. You've been here for 6 hours, Leia said from the doorway, and I've barely scratched the surface of this galaxy's complexity, Vegeta replied without looking away from the displays. Your civilization spans thousands of star systems, has existed for over 25,000 years, and contains species with wildly different biologies and psychologies. Understanding it requires time. Most people take months to absorb what you're reviewing. I'm not most people. Vegeta finally turned to face her. Tell me, Princess, this empire, it replaced a democratic republic through political manipulation and a manufactured war. Your emperor orchestrated his rise over decades, eliminating opposition systematically. He's not a conqueror who seized power through force. He's a manipulator who turned democracy against itself. Yes, Leia's voice was tight. He's a monster, but a clever one. The most dangerous kind. Vegeta's expression was thoughtful. I've served under tyrants, Princess. My father was one. Frieza was another, far worse. I understand how power corrupts and how the corrupted maintain control. Your emperor uses fear, but he also uses hope. He promises order, stability, peace. That's how he keeps billions compliant. You sound like you admire him. I admire effectiveness. Doesn't mean I support his goals. Vegeta crossed his arms. But understanding your enemy is the first step to defeating them. And if Kakarot decides we're helping your alliance, which he will because he's predictable, then I need to know who we're fighting. Leia studied him. You act like you don't care, but you're here, learning, preparing. Why? Vegeta was silent for a long moment. Because Kakarot is an idiot who sees suffering and immediately wants to fix it. He'll throw himself into your conflict without fully understanding the consequences, and I can't. He cut himself off, jaw clenching. Someone needs to keep that fool alive. It might as well be me. You care about him. He's my rival. And Vegeta's voice dropped, barely audible. My friend. Though I'll deny saying that if you repeat it. Leia smiled slightly. Your secret's safe with me. A proximity alarm blared. Both of them tensed as command center personnel rushed to their stations. What is it? Dodonna demanded, entering at a run. Imperial Star Destroyer just dropped out of hyperspace, the sensor officer reported. No fleet elements. Single ship. It's broadcasting a message, requesting to speak with the dimensional anomalies. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. That was fast. Should we scramble fighters? Akbar asked. No, Mon Mothma said quietly. Let's hear what they have to say. The transmission came through and Darth Vader's mask filled the display. Beings from beyond our reality, I am Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith and executor of the Emperor's will. My master extends an offer. Join the Empire, and we will devote all our resources to returning you home. Refuse and remain trapped in our galaxy indefinitely while the rebellion uses you as weapons in a conflict not your own. Silence. Then Vegeta laughed, cold, sharp, utterly without humor. Tell your emperor, the prince said, stepping toward the comm, that Saiyans don't negotiate with cowards who hide behind ultimatums. If he wants to speak with us, he can come himself. Otherwise, he can take his offer and... Goku appeared beside him, clamping a hand over Vegeta's mouth. What my friend means is we need time to think about it. Thanks for the offer. We'll get back to you. He cut the transmission. Kakarot, what are you... Vegeta, you can't just insult an emperor. That's how wars start. We're already in a war, you fool. No, we're guests who are thinking about maybe helping. There's a difference. The Alliance leaders watched the two most powerful beings in the galaxy argue like children, and every one of them had the same thought. We're doomed.